And let me adjust this really quick. Okay, and we are live here. If you're watching this replay, you might want to skip ahead just a little bit here, but we are live here on RTI on the YouTube channel here to discuss Tennessee's, what I think is a very solid, very good early signing period class, and we'll get to that here in just a second as I get this link. Go ahead and tweet it out to everybody here. So give me just a second. Okay. Wow, already got quite a few people in here already. So thank you all for tuning in. I am Nathaniel Rutherford, the managing editor of RockyTopInsider.com, here to talk about Tennessee's 2020 early signing period class, what I think is a very strong class for Tennessee. They already had 18 guys committed to them heading into today. Tennessee gets 16 signatures from those 18 commits, and then they add 5 more guys. All of them, I think, are really good. I'll kind of discuss them all kind of at length here in a second. I think at least 4 of the 5 that they got that are new additions today are really, really good players. And I think 4 of the 5 should be 4 stars already. As it is, 3 of them are. So Tennessee, go ahead, get some rankings out of the way here, looking at where Tennessee is ranked. As of right now on 247 Sports, Tennessee currently has the number 15 overall class in the country, number 7 in the SEC because the SEC is a monster. And then over on Rivals, which is, it's kind of interesting, the discrepancy in the 2 rankings right now, because I don't count ESPN, I only look at ESPN's rankings. On Rivals, Tennessee is 9th in the country, and they're right behind Auburn and Florida. Actually, there's just a string of SEC teams. You have Clemson, Alabama, Ohio State, and then 4 through 9 are SEC teams: LSU, Georgia, Texas A&M, Florida, Auburn, and then Tennessee. Tennessee, of course, with 21 signees, technically 23 commits because they still have both Kyrie Miller and Darian Williamson counted in the class. I'll talk a little bit more about those 2 here in a second. But for now, let's talk about Tennessee and who they got today. Yeah, sorry guys. I'll talk basketball in a second maybe, but right now I'm going to talk about recruiting because the basketball game was ugly. I don't want to talk about that right now. I want to talk about some good news for Tennessee. So if you indulge me, I will talk about Tennessee football and not basketball right now. But thank you, Austin and to Darrell. I appreciate you chiming in with the basketball stuff. Feel free to comment on any things you want to say here. On the chat, Austin saying Harrison Bailey, Heisman Jr. Harrison Bailey is a really good prospect. He finished his senior season with over 4,200 yards, 44 touchdowns, 9 interceptions. I think like a 68 or 67% completion percentage, something like that. But yeah, Mormon Joseph. Let me go ahead and get to the guys Tennessee added today. The 5 new names Tennessee picked up today were 4-star in-state strong side defensive end Tyler Barron, which that one, I guess won't have his moment, but he's been considered, I guess, a silent committer. He's been the guy that a lot of people have penciled in this class for a while. Glad to see him now officially part of the class. He also added the first guy I get this morning who wasn't already in the class was 4-star athlete Lenith Whitehead, who's a linebacker / running back. Really like him as a running back. He's going to get a shot at running back. If you listen to our RTI and VR2 recruiting podcasts, you'll hear Brandon Martin of VR2 say he really likes him at linebacker and thinks he will eventually get a shot at linebacker. I'll be interested to see, what Whitehead's future holds at Tennessee. I definitely think he's got an immediate future at running back, because Tennessee doesn't have a guy on the roster with like his build and everything that he has. But then you also have, Tennessee brought in T. Hodge in this class too, and they're both big guys. Lenith is 6'1", 230. T. Hodge is listed at 6 foot 216. You also have Jabari Small, who's 5'10", 193. I think T. Hodge might be a little bit closer to 6'1", but he's bigger back too. But Whitehead's really just he reminds me of a shorter version, a couple inches shorter version of Jalen Hurd. Maybe not quite the same type of athlete that Hurd is, because that's Hurd was a pretty unique athlete, but I like what Lenny Whitehead brings as running back. He's a powerful guy. He's a really good running back from in high school. Quicker than you'd expect him to be, especially for how big he is. He can move really well. He's explosive. Has a really good. I'm sure what his vertical leap was. Let's see. His 40 was 4.7, so that's not bad. The shuttle was 4.28. Yeah, he had almost a 39-inch vertical. That's really impressive for being 6'1", 230, and to have a 39-inch vertical. That's really impressive. So that's the kind of athleticism you're getting with Lenny Whitehead, who committed and signed with the Tennessee early this morning. Mormon Joseph, my goodness, Mormon Joseph is, I think, a really, really good player. I think he'll move up the rankings a little bit more. He picked up his 4th star recently on 247. I think he'll move up the rankings even a little bit more. I guess he technically got the 4th star on the composite rankings. But I think Mormon Joseph's a phenomenal get for Tennessee, especially getting him over Florida and Florida State. Mormon Joseph in his senior season at Lake Gibson down at Lakeland, Florida, which Lakeland's usually a factory for the Gators, and they usually can get most people they want out of the Lakeland area, and what they don't get, teams like Florida State, Miami can get them. Tennessee going into Florida and getting Mormon Joseph's very impressive. In his senior season with Lake Gibson, he had 115 tackles. He had 28 tackles for loss, 13 sacks, and 44 quarterback hurries. He's not bad in pass coverage. I mean, you look at all that stuff, run stopping and the pass rushing and stuff, and seeing some of his film as an actual coverage guy as a linebacker too. He actually doesn't have some bad coverage skills either. He's got some good instincts, pretty good awareness too. But he's a guy who I think, I don't know about day one next season being a huge contributor, but he's a guy I think has a very high ceiling at Tennessee, especially once he gets into that strength conditioning program with Tennessee and Coach Fitzgerald, and can add some more weight, because he's already looks like he's carved out stone. That kid already has a lot of muscle, but it's a lot of, I think he can add a few more pounds. He's a guy that probably needs to add, I'd say good 15-ish pounds maybe, I would say, to his body to really stand up to the rigors of the SEC. But I think Mormon Joseph, to me, he's one of my favorite guys in this class. If I'm going to go through my favorite guys, it would be Mormon Joseph's up there. Actually, Danico Slaughter, who committed to Tennessee recently and then signed with Tennessee today. I think he's phenomenal. Jalen Hyatt, if y'all have listened to anything of the recruiting podcast we do or anything I've talked about recruiting on here, you know how much I like Jalen Hyatt as a receiver and as an athlete. That kid has phenomenal speed, fastest guy in his class. And that's including Tennessee getting Jimmy Holiday, which I'll touch on in a second, who ran a 4.3840. Hyatt ran a 4.3 flat 40. I mean, this kid's a flat out just speed demon. And those are three of my favorite guys that aren't, the Amari Thomases and the Harrison Baileys. So or the Keyshawn Lawrences, the not the top like four guys. Those are probably three of my favorites. To go back to now the new guys that Tennessee added today, there's touch on Mormon Joseph. I'll go and talk about him. Jimmy Holiday, who said that here on the chat. Mr. Squirrel Squasher, that's a perfect name. Jimmy Holiday was a good pickup. You mentioned Lamar Jackson. I would hold off on the Lamar Jackson references. I've seen people throw that around. I think it's just kind of, he's the in vogue name to kind of say right now, because he's a true dual threat guy who can throw the ball pretty well and run really well. I don't think Holiday is anywhere close to the type of level of passer that Lamar Jackson is, but also I don't remember, what kind of passer Lamar Jackson was coming out of high school. I only remember, Lamar's kind of last year and a half at Louisville, and then obviously now him being in the NFL with the Ravens. I know he coming into college, he wasn't considered an elite passer by any stretch of the means. So I maybe I'm being unfair. Maybe the comparisons to Lamar Jackson are fair. Either way, Jimmy Holiday is a really good player. I'm stunned that he's only the 788th overall player on 247. He's number 1400 overall on the actual 247, but they haven't evaluated him since I think it's March or June when they last evaluated him. Yeah, he hasn't been evaluated by 247 since March of the 31st of March. I think he's a kind of middle higher 3-star on Rivals, so he's a guy that's going to get bumped up. Holiday is you watch the highlight film of his stuff as a quarterback. He is a phenomenal athlete. He's a one-cut guy, kind of like what Eric Gray can do for Tennessee as a running back. He can make one cut and then he's gone, or make one cut, make a guy miss, and then he's picking up 20, 30, 40 yards. That's what Jimmy Holiday does. And he runs a a laser time verified 4.3840. Has a vertical of almost 35 inches, about 5'11", 180 pounds. I think this kid, he's going to get his first shot at quarterback. I don't know. To me, he's interesting. I think that's one reason why you don't see him, I guess, rated higher, is because he wants the shot at quarterback. And like I said, I just don't think his passing skills are, all that great. They're not horrible. He definitely has passing skills, and I don't blame him for wanting to get a shot at quarterback in college. I just wonder, is his ceiling higher at a receiver? Maybe, knowing Pruitt, maybe move him to cornerback or something. But to me, I think his move could eventually be to a skill position outside of quarterback on offense, or he can maybe be a Lynn Bowden type that you saw with Kentucky this past year, where he does a little bit of everything. Obviously, he had to fill in at quarterback because of injuries and whatnot too. But I do think he'll get into Wildcat some for Tennessee as well. I think they've told him that pretty much, is that they'll at least run some Wildcat stuff for him, and he's dangerous. I'm excited to see Jimmy Holiday. I don't think he'll redshirt. I think he'll play this season because I think he's just too dynamic of an athlete. Unless he has some kind of injury, I think he's too dynamic of an athlete to leave off the field. And your last new addition to the class is Reginald Perry, 6'6", 300 pounds. I love the size, down in Alabama, defensive tackle. He's an athletic kid who plays defensive line, offensive line, and tight end, and a little bit of receiver. He played for Fairfield Prep down in Alabama and Fairfield, and offers from Kentucky, Georgia Tech, Nebraska. I think Mississippi State, Ole Miss also offered him as well. He's, to me, I think of the five, I think he's kind of easily the biggest reach of the group. But at the same time, I don't think he's a bad player. I think he just, even if he's only a kind of a role player moving forward for Tennessee in his career, he's going to be a really good role player. I think he's got good long arms, got really good length. Like I said, 6'6", 300. He's a mini Darrell Middleton, and you all saw how good Darrell Middleton was this year. I think with Perry, it's going to be a matter of, can he get techniques down? Can he understand the defense? Once you get him into one set position, how much can he flourish? Because he's played 3-4 different positions in high school. So he's one of those guys you do see it a lot with guys who play 2-3 positions in high school. When you get them to sit there and play one position in college, this is the same thing for Amari Thomas too, who played on both sides of the ball for Briarcrest. When you get them to sit down and just play one position in college, a lot of times you see that growth really just spark, and all of a sudden it may take a little bit for them to kind of get used to it and for that growth to really hit. But once it does, I mean, you see a lot of times where they take a huge leap in what they're able to do, and just kind of their overall knowledge of the game and understanding. A couple of things that I don't think have been talked about enough probably today for Tennessee was holding on, for one, getting Amari Thomas in the first place, but then also holding on to Jimmy Callaway. That there are a lot of teams making a late push for Jimmy Callaway. I know Oklahoma had interest in him, Kentucky had interest in him, Florida had interest in him. Jimmy Callaway was getting a lot of attention. He was taking visits and he was listening to other schools too. Tennessee holds on to him. I really like him, a guy down in Morrow, Georgia, who I think can move up the rankings even more. When he first committed to Tennessee, I'm trying to remember when that was. I don't remember when exactly that was, but he was not a very highly rated prospect. Yeah, back in April at least, he was like an 86 rating. He was in the 700s, almost 800s when Tennessee first got him. Big credit to Jeremy Pruitt and the staff for identifying him and zeroing in on him, because he went from in the 700s to now he's a kind of a top 200 almost player in the 247 sports rankings at least. He's on the composite. He's a 250 overall. But he started to get a lot of attention from a lot of different schools. Like I said, he got an offer from Auburn this month. He took an official visit to Kentucky. Took an official visit to Virginia Tech. Got an offer from Oklahoma. He was getting a lot of interest from a lot of different schools. And kudos to Tennessee for being able to hold off those other teams. Kudos to Tennessee for getting Tyler Barron, because he was getting interest from other schools. Say what you want about him. You can say that he was a lock the whole time. he was getting flirted with by a lot of different teams, and Kentucky fans in general, or Kentucky fans specifically, excuse me, were very upset about the Tyler Barron stuff today, and Vol fans kind of let him know too. So that was kind of fun to see. And Kentucky, I mean, kudos to Kentucky, they had a good class themselves, but um, that was another kind of really big get and good get. All right, let's get to some of y'all's questions and comments here. Leave some more comments here on the chat if you want to. Leave a like on this video, please, if you haven't already. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't. Turn on the notifications so you can see when we go live and post videos and stuff too. And thank you all so much for tuning in so far. I'll keep going here for a while longer. Let's see. Chris Compton, how many of the current QBs do you see leaving, 2 QBs signing, and the Maryland transfer coming in? Maryland transfer has already been on campus. He was on the roster this whole fall. Just had to sit out the year as he walked on and transferred in. I definitely think you're going to see one guy transfer out after the spring. It wouldn't shock me to see 2. I don't want to say 2, but I definitely think you're going to see 1. And then obviously I think kind of odds-on favorite or to do that would be JT Shrout. But I think after the spring you do see at least one guy transfer, because you'd say, I mean, I don't think Holiday is a threat to start for Tennessee as a quarterback, but he's a guy who will be used as an offensive weapon. Harrison Bailey is a threat to start. Jarrett Garantano, obviously a threat to start. I think Brian Maurer, a threat to start. Kasim Hill is interesting to me. I'm not sold on him necessarily from things I've seen in practice with him. He's a big guy. He looks like he looks a little bit like Byron Leftwich. If you remember what Byron Leftwich looked like for the Jaguars, just this big guy who's just kind of like a beefy, big quarterback. He kind of reminds me of him a little bit, or maybe kind of a Ben Roethlisberger a little bit too. Just kind of a big guy who you can take a beating, but I don't know. He's had 2 ACL tears, and both of his like one ACL on the one leg, one ACL on the other. So he's. I'll be interested to see kind of what he can do in the spring, and kind of if he's lost a lot of that mobility he had. It wasn't like he was a burner out there, but he could move around enough to escape the pocket and extend plays and stuff. So I think that will be a big, we'll see what he can do there. Let's see. Lane Pine said, you may have answered this. Who do you think will redshirt, if any, of Tennessee's, like if all the entire class Tennessee has? I'll get to that in a second because I want to get to some other questions, but I think it's a good question, Lane, and I'll answer that one here in a little bit. Josh asking, do we get the big 5-star tight ends? And then Mr. School Squasher saying, do we get Darnell Washington and flip Jay Hardy from Auburn? Darnell Washington, I was a believer in Tennessee getting him for a long time. It just feels to me now that it's going to be probably Georgia getting him. I don't know. His recruitment makes no sense to me. It would be great if Tennessee got him. I'll say that much. But from what we've talked about at the RTI and VRT recruiting podcast, I believe it was being recorded yesterday. It seems like the momentum is in Georgia's favor, but and then you had him saying he was not going to sign, and then him tweeting out the emoji of the signing the paper stuff today. Man, I don't know. Darnell Washington's weird. Not him, but this recruitment's been weird. I don't know the kid. I mean, I don't think he's weird. I wouldn't say it to his face that he's 6'6", 230. He could beat the crap out of me. Have you seen pictures of that guy? He looks like a bodybuilder. So I'm not saying that he's weird. I'm saying his recruitment's been weird. I don't feel as good about him coming to Tennessee as I did, coming off his visit to Tennessee over the weekend. But I definitely don't think Tennessee's out of it. I think we'll see if later this week, around Friday, Saturday or so, if you start seeing Tennessee or Georgia, either one of those schools start, maybe putting out more tight end offers, or Tennessee turning up the heat per se on a D-Beckwith. I think Tennessee's still going to try to get D-Beckwith in this class, but he's a guy who has been considered a potential tight end target, especially if they miss on Darnell Washington. So I think I don't know if he signed, I don't know what his tweets mean. Darnell Washington, it was very cryptic with his tweets, so I don't know. We'll see if he gets him. Jay Hardy, though, his decision not to sign this week is big for Tennessee. He was originally not going to sign this week anyway, no matter who he's committed to. Excuse me. Auburn wanted him to sign this week because obviously then they could have him in the boat and not have to worry about him. But the fact that he's leaving the door open, I think Tennessee, that door is open. He's listening. they can get him to visit. That's going to be interesting. Tennessee is going to get visits from a few different prospects in the 2020 class in January. Nazir Stackhouse, the Georgia commit's one of them. I don't think Tennessee's going to flip him, but they're going to try. I think the big names to keep an eye on right now, at least for Tennessee, will be obviously Darnell Washington, Jay Hardy. I think D-Beck with keep an eye on Nazir Stackhouse, I guess. I don't feel Tennessee, very confident Tennessee getting him, but that's an option. Jalen St. John, offensive lineman's one to keep an eye on. And maybe Demon Clowney, which was a fantastic name. But the kid who was with, who did he decommit from? LSU, I think. Watch out for maybe him. I don't know that Tennessee will get heavily involved there really, but that's one to keep an eye on. And I would have said, I was going to say Raheem Jarrett, but what in the world happened there? Going from LSU to Maryland? That was a, LSU didn't have quite the day they were hoping for, especially coming off an SEC championship and getting ready to play for a potential national title. They still have a very good class. They still have a top 5 class, in my opinion. But they lost Demon Clowney, and then they lost Raheem Jarrett, which was just, it was pretty surprising to lose Raheem Jarrett, especially to Maryland. Obviously Maryland's kind of his hometown school, and there's a lot of thought that if he's going to flip, Maryland would be one of the schools to flip to, that or Alabama. But then when there was a talk that he's not going to sign during the early sign period, there was a lot of discussion, well, Tennessee's probably going to try to turn up the heat here. And then suddenly he just signs to Maryland. So Raheem Jarrett, and man, that kid, that recruitment was bizarre from I wouldn't say from day one, but it's been weird for months there. And then when he committed to LSU, it was kind of like, what? And then he's stuck there. Everyone thought he's going to stay there, and then guess not. What about the wide receiver Caldwell kid from South Carolina? I am not familiar, Matt, who you're talking about. The Caldwell kid. I am blanking on who that is. If you put the first name in there, I'll look it up. But I am blanking on who the Caldwell kid is. So Matt, if you want to leave that in the chat, please do. Josh Bennett, do you see Harrison Bailey starting? And then Joe Briggs says first incomplete pass that Jarrett Garantano throws. The fans will be wanting to put in Harrison, but hopefully Harrison redshirts. I think it would benefit Harrison Bailey to be able to redshirt. It would benefit Jarrett Garantano to play well enough to get Tennessee to where they need to be and want to be this upcoming season, or Brian Maurer, whoever else is up there. I think it would be most beneficial for Harrison Bailey to redshirt. I don't know if he will though. I'm going to be very interested to see how Harrison Bailey handles coming in and battling and competing for this quarterback position for Tennessee, because I think Harrison Bailey is a really good prospect. I think he's a really good quarterback. I wonder how ready he is to lead an offense day one in college, but he's coming in early. He's coming in as an early enrollee, so he'll have extra time to practice and stuff, which is really good. I'm intrigued. I think Harrison Bailey is a really good quarterback, so it wouldn't surprise me if he starts. Someone asked about Vi Cajo. I didn't see what he did today. San Diego State. That's where he ended up. So Vi Cajo signed with San Diego State. So he decommitted from Nevada. Was trending towards Tennessee there for a little bit, it looked like. And then now he signed on with San Diego State. So that is where he went. I think Vi Cajo is a good prospect. I liked him. I think the coaches liked him. But I think they liked Leneath Whitehead more. And I think they obviously like the guys that have a linebacker right now currently, with Martavius French and Bryson Eason a bit more as well. So Vi Cajo ended up going to San Diego State. Let's see. I think when you write back, they can hit some home runs. Let's see. Is there someone you wanted to see come to UT that didn't? Yes, Desmond Tisdall. That is... I would like to see him in the class, but I think Leneath Whitehead maybe is a better fit. That's maybe a higher. I don't know about higher. That's I don't know. I think Desmond Tisdall's the only one I can think of that for sure. I would have liked to see. That was a realistic opportunity for Tennessee to get. Chris Compton says ESPN has UT at 18 and Rivals has UT at 9. Which do you think is right? Then you also have 247 that has Tennessee at 15. So you have kind of, I would say, I agree with Mr. Squirrel Squasher, which God, I can't. That's the best name on this entire chat. I think 247 is probably more accurate. I think Tennessee, especially with I think you're going to see Tennessee have some guys move up. I think you might see Whitehead maybe drop a little bit in the rankings because he was injured most of his senior season. So I think you'll see him drop some. But I think you'll see Harrison Bailey take a little bit of an uptick. I'm not expecting anything drastic because for whatever reason, the guys at 247 just don't like Harrison Bailey nearly as much as the guys the rivals do. I don't know why, but I think you'll see him move up some. I think you could see Jimmy Caldwell move up a little bit. I think you'll see Cooper Mays maybe drop a little bit. I think you'll see Jalen Hyatt rise a little bit. I do think you'll see Mormon Joseph rise. Tamari McDonald's interesting to me. I don't know if he'll raise up any. Danico Slaughter, I think definitely is going to get a bump. I think he'll be a 4-star on 247. I think you'll see Jimmy Holiday get a bump. I don't know if they'll push him to 4-star status, but I think he'll get up to definitely inside the top 500, maybe close to 400 range at least on 247. I think you'll see T. Hodge get a bump. He deserves a bump. He was injured and then came back and played really well down the stretch for Maryville this year. So I think you'll see him get a bump. I think you're going to see more movement upwards for Tennessee than you will movement downwards for any of Tennessee's commitments. Dakari Caldwell. Yes, thank you. That's okay. Okay, him. I know you're talking about. Dakari Caldwell. That's the wide receiver that plays at Northwestern over in Rock Hill, South Carolina. Yes. He will be one to watch. There will be a few names to watch. We'll discuss that on the next RTI and VR2 recruiting podcast, which we will record hopefully tomorrow if we can. If not, then it'll be Friday. But Dakari Caldwell is an interesting one to me. He's a guy that is a top 500 guy on 247 Sports. So kind of a middle high 3-star on 247. Interesting prospect. He's 6'4", 190. He would fit the mold of Tennessee just recently offered him on the 8th. He didn't sign anywhere today. I don't think he's planning on signing in the early signing period. I think he's a guy that's you're going to see take it through February. But to me, he's a guy that Tennessee brought in a lot of speed guys at the receiver position. You look at Jimmy Callaway, you look at Jalen Hyatt, both those guys around 6 feet, a little bit under 6 feet, really fast, really shifty guys. Dakari Clark, I guess it's Dakari. I'm not sure how to say his name, but he is a different type of guy. Like I said, 6'4", 190. He would bring height and a size that you didn't have with any other guys in this class. And Tennessee, they're not like they're going to have just a bunch of short, fast dudes in the receiving core next season. You're going to have Brandon Johnson coming back. Josh Palmer is a bigger body. You do have, you're going to have some smaller guys in there, but you have Cedric Tillman, who's a bigger body too. Ramel Keaton isn't small. I think he's 6'2", I think maybe. So you're going to have some bigger guys, but you are bringing in this class specifically smaller, quicker guys. So I think Dakari Caldwell would be an interesting one to watch for. Like I said, as well as D. Beckwith, who is kind of a do-it-all kind of guy. I think D. Beckwith, though, to me, I think you're going to see him, I guess, be targeted more as a tight end. He's just going to be kind of an offensive guy. He plays basketball, and I think the biggest thing with him was, can he have a chance to play basketball and football wherever he goes? Tennessee, Florida, and Ole Miss have all offered him opportunities to play basketball and football at their respective schools. He's 6'5", 210, 215 pounds, somewhere around there. Really good athlete. Like I said, plays down in Florence, Alabama. He took an unofficial visit to Tennessee twice in the past month in November, November 2nd and November 30th. He's already taken one official visit. That's to Florida on December 6th. I imagine Tennessee will be getting and trying to get an official visit for him in January. So I think D. Beckwith's one to keep an eye on, and obviously, we mentioned Darnell Washington and Jay Hardy earlier as guys to keep eyes on as well. Let's see. People asking about do I think Tennessee beats Oklahoma? That's going to be, I'm going to wait on that one. Chuck Hickey says Slaughter's film's pretty awesome. Yes, Danico Slaughter is really good. I liked him a ton when Tennessee picked him up. And then if you listen to the Swain event, if you listen to their show this morning, Swain just gushed about Danico Slaughter for like a whole 30 minutes. It feels like he liked him a lot. I like him a lot. I think he's got some really good film. Chris Compton at least talked about signing that will surprise. I mean, it might be Danico Slaughter. I mean, I guess we're talking about him now because he's recent. I also wouldn't put it past Dominic Bailey. He's a kid that didn't get talked about almost at all in this class, and he's a 4-star top 250 overall player in this class, and he's a really good defensive tackle, 6'2", 290. I think Dominic Bailey has a chance to surprise people. I think he's an early enrollee as well, so he's going to be able to come in and enroll early and get in the strength and conditioning program pretty quickly too, and get kind of acclimated there. So, if you don't want to count Danico Slaughter, because we have been talking about him a lot recently because he just committed and just signed, I'm going to go with Dominic Bailey, because Bailey to me is a guy that I think is a really good defensive tackle or defensive lineman in general, and he's coming in early. He's highly ranked. Pruitt talked about watching St. Francis Academy up in Baltimore, and they're practicing, and he mentioned it, that he felt like watching the Pittsburgh Steelers practice. So, I mean, they're very regimented and he understands how to practice, and Pruitt talked about multiple times getting kids to understand how to practice the right way. I don't think that's going to be a problem with Dominic Bailey. Before I get to more questions here, once again, thank you all for tuning in. I am Nathaniel Rutherford, the managing editor of RockyTopInsider.com. Give this video a like, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and be sure to turn on notifications when you subscribe and stuff too, to make sure you're getting, once we get videos going live like this, or we post videos of press conferences and things like that, you can get it just like that. Let's see, more questions from you guys. Appreciate all the questions here in the chat. Paul Camp, I don't know why Washington would go to Georgia, because I think he would play day one at Tennessee. He could play day one at Georgia too. I don't think they really have anybody tight end next year that's coming in that's going to be doing a whole lot for them either. I think he had a chance to play day one at Georgia or Tennessee, either one. So I think he would fit. I think he would get more out of him in Chaney's system than you would have at Coley, because, I mean, y'all watched and saw the drop off of Georgia's offense this year. I think it was obvious they missed Jim Chaney, and I think Chaney historically does a better job of utilizing tight ends in his offense. So I think it makes sense for him to go either one, but I think it makes more sense for him to come to Tennessee. Let's see. What coaches do you see leaving the staff in the coming weeks? Second, who gets a raise on the staff? I wanted to comment on who I think leaves. I don't want to, comment on a guy's job, but I do think you're going to see, and I mean, I have firsthand knowledge of this. You're going to see staff changes. It's just a matter of how many. I don't think you're going to see a major overhaul or anything like that, but I do think you'll see probably two. I would say at least two staff changes for Tennessee in this offseason. And that doesn't mean that they're being let go. I mean, you could also see two guys move on and get jobs elsewhere. But I do think you're going to see at least two positions open. Who I think gets a raise. If Tennessee wants to keep David Johnson on staff, they'll give him a raise, especially the way he did with recruiting this cycle in Tennessee. He did a really good job keeping Tennessee in with those Memphis guys. The Whitehaven trio, Amari Thomas, Jarius Small. He did a really good job with the Memphis guys. I think as much as Brian Niemark has talked about, and obviously he's the ace recruiter, and Pruitt is probably one of the better, if not the best kind of head coach recruiter out there. I guess maybe Nick Saban is probably the best, but Pruitt's really high up there when it comes to head coaching recruiters. Brian Niemark is a darn good recruiter. David Johnson did a really good job this class of recruiting and bringing in some really high quality guys from Tennessee in this class. So I think he's a guy to look at as deserving of a raise, in my opinion. Joe Briggs, is Holiday going to be a QB? He's going to get a shot at QB. At first, I mentioned this earlier. He's going to play at QB first, get his first shot there. But then I ultimately do think he moves on to some other role on offense and knowing Pruitt, maybe defense. But I do think you'll see him start at quarterback. Not start, but like start out at quarterback. And then I think he'll move somewhere else, but we'll see what happens there. Matt Luke and Coley will be a joke. The Matt Luke situation, him coming on just as an offensive line coach, is interesting to me. I almost wonder if he will get co-OC duties or something too. Chaney supposedly showed him 18-page development chart. Holiday, wow, that's impressive. I haven't heard that. I need to go back. I haven't had a chance to watch and listen to all of the interviews and stuff and read all the stuff from all the recruits who signed on to Tennessee today. I've read some, and obviously the VR2 guys were everywhere and did a lot of live videos and things like that. And I got to hear some of the interviews and stuff they did. But as far as like what VolQuest or 247 Sports did, I haven't had a chance to see all of that. But that's impressive. I mean, Chaney's. If I'm a recruit, if I'm an offensive guy, and I'm wanting my skill set to be utilized correctly and to be taught by a guy who knows what he's doing, I don't know why you wouldn't go play for Jim Chaney. Even if he wasn't in Tennessee, if he was somewhere else, like at Georgia or whatever, Cheney is just a darn good coach. He just really is. And Joe Briggs just backing up what I just said. I really like the Cheney offense. I agree. Chris Compton, what do I know about Kentucky coaches crying about UT negative recruiting? Oh my God, I saw that. I didn't see Muschamp's comments, but I did see the Kentucky coach. I can't remember the name of the guy now, but he was asked specifically about. Oh goodness, who was it? It was a guy who Tennessee was pursuing, Oxendine. I believe it was Octavius Oxendine. He was asked about him, and he mentioned the actual quote was, we never negative recruit, but I can't speak for other schools. Isn't that a negative recruiting right there? Aren't you negatively recruiting against another school by saying you never negatively recruit, but other schools do? I don't know. I don't believe it, first of all. Any coach who's saying they don't negatively recruit is absolutely 100% lying to you, straight to your face. Especially in the SEC. I mean, maybe that's true in like the WAC or the Mountain West Conference, but in the SEC, every one of those 14 teams is negatively recruiting against some school, whether it's Tennessee, whether it's Florida, whether it's Alabama, Georgia, Ole Miss. They're negative recruiting against somebody. I guess maybe unless you're Vanderbilt. I mean, but I think negative recruiting against them is just saying, look at their field. But anyway, I also don't know if you can be called negative recruiting if you're just stating facts. But hey, whatever. Kentucky did have a good recruiting class. I'm not going to trash them too much. They especially on the lines of scrimmage, they did a really good job on the offensive line and defensive line recruiting in this specific cycle. So Kentucky did have a really good recruiting class. Still can't beat Tennessee's though, at least overall, in my opinion. Shakiki asks, who will come in early as early enrollees? Let me check. 247 generally does a pretty good job of having it updated here. Let's see. Harrison Bailey's coming in early enrollee. Dominic Bailey's supposed to. Cooper Mays is supposed to. I want to say Jimmy Holiday. Yeah, he's supposed to as well. I want to say a couple of the other in-state guys are going to be early enrollees, but they're not listed here on 247. But those are the ones right now that are listed as early enrollees are Harrison Bailey, Cooper Mays, Jimmy Holiday, and Dominic Bailey. So both the Baileys, Cooper Mays, and then Jimmy Holiday. But I feel like it'll be a couple of other guys who also come in. I feel like it's some of the in-state kids. I want to say, I don't know if the Whitehaven kids are all going to be early enrollees or not. I know obviously they all signed early. Don't know if they'll enroll early or not. That's a totally different thing, is signing early and enrolling early. Just because you sign early doesn't mean you enroll early. Let's see. I think Keyshawn Lawrence starts at cornerback, said Matt Adams. I don't know. I think it's going to depend on what kind of offseason, what kind of spring and stuff that Darrell Taylor has. If Taylor doesn't take a step forward, I almost do think you see Keyshawn start at, or excuse me, Key. I guess he goes by Key Lawrence start at corner, because I think he will play corner. I think it's safety. Well, maybe he'll play safety. I think it's going to be interesting to see what they do at safety this year, because obviously Nigel Warrior is going to be gone. Javon Flowers has been good, but he's had issues with health. Theo Jackson's a good veteran guy, but he has I think a definite ceiling in my opinion. You also have Jill McCullough back there. You have a few other options back there as well. But then I also think Danico Slaughter to me I think is a perfect star safety type of guy there. I also think you're going to see Tamarion McDonald get a shot at star, and maybe not obviously as a true freshman, but I think in the future, to me, Slaughter finds a role on defense somewhere this year. Even if he doesn't, I think he's a guy that finds a role at least on special teams. I don't think he's redshirting. I think Danico Slaughter is just a really phenomenal athlete and a really good player. I think he has a high ceiling at Tennessee. I think he's a great fit for what Tennessee, what Jeremy Pruitt likes to do with his defense. I mean, you want to talk about rankings and all this sort of stuff, athleticism, and all this sort of stuff. Yeah, it's great, but you can't beat fit. I think Danico Slaughter is a perfect fit for what Pruitt wants to do with his defense, and Derek Ansley as well. Boom Adams, I love what UT did on the defensive line this cycle. Great job, fellas. Yeah, Tennessee's defensive line haul this class, it could get better. I mean, like I said earlier, I think Tennessee really does have a chance of being able to flip Jake Hardy between now and February. But bringing in Amari Thomas, bringing in Dominic Bailey, and bringing in Reginald Perry, those are three really good guys, I think, on the line. And I think Thomas especially, and I actually would say Bailey too has a chance to come in and contribute immediately. Tennessee obviously is returning a lot of guys. I think pretty much everybody on the defensive line. Emmett Gooden's gonna be back and healthy. Hopefully he doesn't have another injury or anything like that. But you're gonna return everyone you had from the defensive line last year or this season for next season. But I still think you'll see Thomas as a true freshman on the field because I think he's just a really good player. Tyler Barron is supposed to play outside linebacker according to Pruitt. That makes sense. That's going to be scary. I think he'll trim down a little bit, but a 6'4", 250 guy is coming off the edge or coming off as a stand-up linebacker, outside linebacker. Well, that's a big boy. That's a big kid. I think though right now, what is his size? I think Darrell Taylor is around that size right now because he's kind of that the pass rusher, but kind of a hybrid defensive end a little bit, but definitely outside linebacker. Let's see, Darrell Taylor, 6'4", 255. So Tyler Barron's already coming in same size that Darrell Taylor is right now, and Darrell Taylor was a guy obviously if you remember when he came in, he was about 220 maybe 225 at the best when he first came in here. He's a guy that had to add a lot of weight onto his body, kind of like Mormon Joseph's going to have to add some weight, but I think Mormon Joseph has a really high ceiling at Tennessee. But Tyler Barron's going to play outside linebacker. You're going to see Leith Whitehead play running back. I'm going to run through some positions here because I think that's a question that a lot of you will probably have. I think Keyshawn Lawrence will probably play corner, but I don't count him out at safety. Like I said, Tyler Barron's going to be outside linebacker. Leith Whitehead is going to play at running back for first there. Pretty sure Jimmy Callaway will be a wide receiver for Tennessee. Mormon Joseph, I think, will be an outside linebacker as well. Tamarion McDonald's going to get a shot first as a nickel star type of guy. Pert mentioned if he adds enough weight down the line, he could be an outside linebacker, but I think I think he projects better as a nickel star type player. And then Danico Slaughter, I think also kind of a star safety player. Jimmy Holiday going to start at quarterback. But I think you'll eventually see him move somewhere else, but he's going to at least start out at quarterback position there. I think that's it for as far as the guys that are kind of question marks. Javonte Spraggins and Cooper Mays, I think they're both listed at center. I'll be interested to see what happens there because I think Spraggins might actually end up being the better center than Mays, and maybe Mays just plays guard. But I think both those guys will be kind of intriguing to see who sticks at center or anything like that. But let's see, a couple more things here. TKT, don't sleep on Aaron Beasley. Yeah, I actually think Aaron Beasley, that's a good point. With him, though, the thing is, with him, this whole year, because of Tennessee's just lack of depth at the inside linebacker position, because they had injuries and transfers and whatnot, he practiced a lot this year at inside linebacker. And I don't know what his future is going to hold, honestly. I think he's a good player. I think Beasley's a pretty good player for Tennessee. I just wonder, like I said, because he practiced so much at inside linebacker, maybe he took a step back. I don't know. I agree with you. I think Beasley's a good player. He's definitely a hard hitter. I do want to see more of him. He's a guy that I'm intrigued to see moving forward for Tennessee. But like I said, he played at inside linebacker, or he practiced there quite a bit because Tennessee had, 4, maybe 5 scholarship guys there and down the line there because you had Batuli, Toa, J.J. Peterson, who rarely saw the field, and then Salome Page, and I think that was it. I don't think there was a fifth option there of a true inside linebacker, so he practiced there quite a bit. So I like Aaron Beasley. I just wonder, what his future, what future position he's actually going to play. I think we get our 2 portal slots back this year. Anything about the portal gods rewarding us? I don't know if Tennessee. That doesn't work that way. The portal slots, that's just the same scholarship. You can only bring in 25 guys every cycle. If you bring in someone from the transfer portal, that eats into those 25 scholarship spots that you could have for the recruiting class. So that doesn't. You don't have a separate transfer portal scholarship limit and a recruiting scholarship limit. You have just 25 people you can bring in. Now you can get creative with those 25 numbers by doing things like blue shirting and all this different stuff with not as much as you used to be able to do, but you can still blue shirt and stuff with you can still blue shirt with recruiting. So you only have 25 spots. But I'll be interested to see if Tennessee does anything, grad transfer or regular transfer wise. It doesn't seem like there's as much activity or much thought this time as there was this time last year. But I don't know if it could happen. If it does, I would look to probably on defense, unless you can go grab a grad transfer, wide receiver or something like that to bring in some experience. That's going to be, the only really experienced guys you're going to have back in the receiving core next year are going to be Brandon Johnson, who basically sat out this whole year, and then Josh Palmer. You'll have D'Angelo Gibbs, who I think he's been in college, but he's not played receiver in college really. Ramel Keaton's been here for a year. Cedric Tone's been here for a couple years, but not big contributors. So unless I think maybe unless it's a receiver, I think you'll see if Tennessee goes the grad transfer route, it'll be on defense. Kind of wrapping up here, we are replacing Darrell Taylor with Tyler. With Taylor, whoops. I mean, okay, you're being funny here. I like that. What's the story of Darnell Washington, Desmond Tisdall? Darnell Washington, I don't know, but I touched on that earlier. I don't know what his story is. He tweeted out that emoji of signing or whatever. Maybe he signed on with somebody and he's trying to keep it a secret again. I don't know. If he did, we'll know because it'll get leaked out here in the next couple of days. I mean, there's no way if he signed this week, signed today, that it stays secret up until January 2nd. There's no way. Thanks for the insight. I had no idea he moved inside linebacker. Yeah, he is a hitter. I do like him TUT. I do like Aaron Beasley. Kristen London didn't got to class, thus UT couldn't. Oh, I've heard that discussion. I've tried to get that confirmed, but I've not heard about that. I know what you're talking about, Chris. Talking about London and Kristen, the way their graduation and stuff happened, and their scholarship not being filled up, or their scholarship spot still being filled up. I think they're off the books now, like you said. I think, like I said, that's why Tennessee, I think they can be a little more creative with the numbers this cycle. I think you'll see them take a full 25 in this class and then probably oversign a little bit if they can. That's going to take them hitting on, kind of all their targets in between now and February to oversign. But it's possible. You see Tennessee take 27, and that kind of feeds into Joe Brick's question is, how do you ever get a full roster if you only sign 25 kids? Because if you pay attention, Tennessee doesn't usually lose. You don't usually lose 25 kids per cycle. Like right now, Tennessee had 10, 11 guys graduate who aren't going to be on the rosters next season. And you obviously had guys transfer out, and Tennessee was already at a deficit scholarship-wise. I think at one point this season, they were operating with like a 78 or 77 scholarship guys. And also, you also reward walk-ons with scholarships. That's another way. You can bring in 25 new guys. You also have a lot of walk-ons on the roster. And you did see Tennessee reward near the end of the season 3 walk-ons with scholarships. I'm struggling to remember all of who they are now. One of them was Garland's little brother, or I guess his little brother. And I cannot remember the other two, who those other two were now. But one was a receiver, I believe. And I cannot. Isaiah Montgomery, I want to say, was one who got a scholarship. But so that's how you keep consistently getting to 85 and you have your full rosters, because you don't typically always have 25 guys leaving in a side. I guess kind of a graduating class usually. And you can also offer scholarships to walk-ons and whatnot. Tisdall did sign. Yes, he signed with Auburn. Salome Page. Yeah, Salome Page is a guy who was brought in, I want to say in the 20. Oh gosh, what class was Salome Page in? I think he's 2016, 2017. I want to say he was 2017. He was definitely a Butch Jones recruit in the 2017 class. He's actually almost a 4-star on 207, that 354 overall. Number 20 outside linebacker at the time, 6'2", 207. Played at Kell High School down in Marietta. Didn't have a great offer list. I will say that he's a guy who wouldn't shock me if he transferred out, but Tennessee needed him this year because of just needing bodies, just purely because they didn't have anybody. Like I said, besides Henry Toa and Dana Batuli, those guys were out. I mean, J.J. Peterson was getting emergency time, but it wasn't like he didn't play poorly when he was in there, but it wasn't like he was a guy that this staff really, you could tell they didn't trust him a whole lot. I'll leave it at that. But unless you guys have any more questions, that'll probably about wrap it up here. Tennessee, like I said, signs 21 guys in the early signing period right now, currently ranked 15th on 247, ranked 9th on Rivals. I personally don't care about ESPN, so I don't look at them. Overall today in the SEC, I saw 247 said Tennessee was a winner, South Carolina was a winner. I agree. South Carolina got Jordan Birch. That was a huge get for them. That alone makes them a winner for today. But they also had a pretty good class regardless. But Jordan Birch was a huge get for South Carolina. But Tennessee and South Carolina were listed kind of um, as the winners today. Florida and LSU are listed as two losers, which is funny because they're still have pretty good classes, still have pretty highly ranked classes. But Florida missed. I think they went like I follow a couple of Florida beat writers and stuff because I've like to have them on for that Florida week and talk about the Gators and stuff when it comes time for that game. They apparently went 0 for 4 on like their four big targets. They had they had really good class, and it's a class that they mentioned. It was one of those things where you can kind of look back at Tennessee. I guess last year with Tennessee, you obviously ended up getting Eric Gray, and then Cornelius Crouch did end up signing with Tennessee. But Tennessee last year, at the early signing period, wasn't a whole lot of fireworks for the Vols, especially that first day. You just kind of kept everyone you already had in the class. I think added Gerard Means, and then it wasn't until the next day you had Eric Gray, and then that Friday is when the Cornelius Crouch stuff happened. So you can kind of compare it to what Tennessee happened last year, but they apparently missed out on all of their like main big targets they had right now. But they still have a really good class. They have 3 guys already enrolled, 18 who signed their letter of intent, and then 3 guys: Leonard Manuel, Mark Britt, and Jovens Janvier, that's a name, who are committed still but have not signed. They've also brought in Jordan Pouncey and Britton Cox as transfers. Britton Cox I forgot about him coming as a transfer. Gosh, that kid was a former 5-star transferring out of Georgia. I forgot he transferred to Florida. And then Jordan Pouncey transferred from Texas to Florida. So interesting. But yeah, they have a good class still. But it's interesting that Tennessee, I think, made up some ground on Florida, and that's notable. I don't think they really made up any ground on Georgia, but because Georgia currently has the number 4 recruiting class on 247, which is number 2 in the SEC, because Alabama is currently number 2. Clemson's number 1 across the board. Clemson's number 1 on Rivals. Clemson's number 1 on 247. I'd imagine the number 1 on ESPN. Like I said, I don't know because I just don't really care about ESPN. Actually, Clemson and Georgia are neck and neck when it comes to actual average recruiting ranking. Clemson just has more commits / signees right now with 23. Georgia has 19. So that's interesting too. Anyway, last few questions here before I will log off. Thank you, Lang. Yes, red shirts. Thank you. I totally blanked on that. Guys who I think will red shirt in this class for Tennessee. First let me say Darian Williamson and Kyrie Miller didn't sign today. I think Kyrie Miller will still probably be in this class because I think Jim Chaney really likes him. To me, Chaney specifically offered him, like over the phone. I talked with Kyrie and did an interview with him. Chaney over the phone, like put him on speakerphone with the coaches meeting in the coaches meeting room, and offered Kyrie Miller over the phone personally. Chaney has visited when they visited him recently. He went down there and visited him. I think Miller still ends up being in this class. I think maybe that decision might be more with him rather than Tennessee because he's starting to get interest from other schools. I think he's kind of wanting to see some stuff maybe. I still think he'll be part of the class. I think Darian Williamson is a blue shirt candidate. If Tennessee, however, if they get someone else who they could potentially blue shirt, like I guess maybe D Beckwith or something I don't know. I think he's visited too many times. I don't think he can. I can't remember what the rules for blue shirt and stuff are now. I think there's a decent chance both those guys are still in this class, but it would not shock me if either one or both end up not being part of the class. But as for red shirts, I don't know about Will Auburn. I don't know what Tennessee's long snapper situation is like enough to know if he'll redshirt or not. I don't think either T. Hodge or Leith Whitehead will redshirt. I think you might see Jabari Small get a red shirt. I think Reginald Perry will probably redshirt. To me, he seems like he's a little raw. He doesn't seem like he's a guy that will come in and contribute immediately. He's 6'6", 300, so maybe he will. But I think Tennessee has enough defensive linemen returning. And like I said, also having Amari Thomas and Dominic Bailey. I think you'll see Reginald Perry redshirt, but I'm not sure. I think you'll see one of the interior guys right now. Like I said, Kyrie Miller is technically not part of the class right now. But with James Robinson, Javante Spraggins, Cooper Mays, one of those guys I think redshirts. I don't think all three of them do. I don't think two do, but I think at least one of them do. I think Demarion McDonald would make sense for me to redshirt because I think Tennessee has enough defensive backs in that grouping as a star nickel guy to not have to rely on him to do anything a lot this year, except for, I mean, McDonald I think could be a good special teams guy. But that's about it for the red shirts, unless, like I said, Harrison Bailey, unless he can redshirt because you don't need him to play this year and he doesn't have to start because JG or Brian Mauer or both are enough to do something there, or Kasim Hill, or maybe even Holiday comes in and does enough there. But I don't think you'll see a ton of red shirts in this class. I think you'll see a handful, and it does help having that new rule of you can play 4 games and then you can redshirt. So I think maybe that'll help. Maybe you see more guys redshirt because of that. Maybe I got Jimmy Callaway red shirts or whatever, but I think Jalen Hyatt's playing enough to not redshirt. I do think Callaway will play enough to not redshirt either. Let's see. I need your 2020 prediction. What will my record be? Too early to say that, Joe. I don't feel comfortable saying what the 2020 record prediction will be. Please redshirt Harrison Bailey. Okay, Harold Denton. Let's see. Georgia, Clemson, Florida, Auburn, LSU, and Bama have all been paying out big sums of money to recruits, parents for many decades now. Yes, Harold, they have, and I guarantee you Tennessee's paid recruits too. Every major school in college recruiting does some sort of cheating. It's just a matter of how smart are you at cheating. Tennessee cheats too. They absolutely do. Every SEC team, I guarantee you, cheats. Except, I guess, maybe Vanderbilt doesn't cheat. I don't know, because they're Vandy, and I don't know. But either, aside from maybe them, every SEC school, I guarantee you, cheats. Isn't Perry like 6'6"? Yes, he is 6'6". I guess he's like a Darrell Middleton size wise. Just a matter of, I think he's a little more raw than the other guys. He played like I said, he played a lot of different positions in high school. He's going to learn one position. I think he's a little more raw from a technique perspective. I don't know that he's ready to come in and contribute immediately. Like I said, Tennessee doesn't. Defensive line's on a spot where they needed someone to come in and be an immediate contributor, like they have in other areas, like they have for, let's say, safety, for example, or for wide receiver, for example, or the interior line, because you're going to be losing Trey Smith, and you don't have a whole lot of. I guess you have some options there with Jerome Carvin and whatnot, but you would like to have some bodies there ready to go just in case. So Tennessee had needs to fill out depth. You didn't have a lot of needs for like needing a freshman like you did last year, like Wanya Morris and Darnell Wright, needing them to come in and be day one starters, or Henry Toa needing him to come in and be a day one starter. You didn't have that as much in this class, but you had to bring in guys who are going to be able to give you some depth and could potentially be starters as freshmen. I don't think you really, looking at Tennessee's class right here, I don't think you need necessarily any of them to be day one starters or be freshman starters to have the type of success you want to have. You need them to be role players. You need them to be playing as true freshmen. But I don't think you need any of these guys like you needed the Wanya Morrises, the Darnell Wrights, the Quavaris Crouches, the Henry Toas to be instant impact type of players this year for Tennessee. You need these guys to come in and play and have roles and be on this team and make an impact. But I don't think you need them to be day one starters. I know we pay recruits, but not in the same level of those schools done back in the 90s. Yeah. Yes, I agree. Like I said, it'll. I guess that's a good point. If tight end, that's the one spot I would say Tennessee does need come in as an impact guy. That's why you saw both Eric Gilbert, although they did pitch him as a wide receiver, but Eric Gilbert and Darnell Washington being kind of big targets for Tennessee. And I think why you could see, if they get him, a D. Beckwith be a tight end guy. If they don't get Darnell Washington, who will start with Tennessee next year at tight end, that's a good question. Let me pull back up Tennessee's roster. I can think off the top of my head who they have on the roster at tight end, but I want to make sure I'm giving you the most educated, correct answer here. I mean, it could just be Austin Pope, but I think you could see a Jackson Lowe as a younger guy come in there and make some noise. Jacob Warren to me is an interesting prospect because I like Warren a lot as an offensive weapon. As a pass catcher, he still needs to add some more weight. He's 6'6", 241. I think he would be a really good pass catching option, but can he block? So that's my thing. But I think Jackson Lowe and Sean Brown are both guys you could see make impacts as, I guess, Did they both redshirt this year? How many games did Jackson Lowe appear in? Looks like they both were able to redshirt this year. I think I don't recall Brown playing. It doesn't look like Lowe played in it either. So I think both those guys were able to redshirt. So I think if you miss it on Darrell Washington, Lowe and Brown will be guys who will play, I think. But I also think you obviously will see Austin Pope play, because Pope played a good role this year in Tennessee. He didn't show up in the stat sheet all the time, but he had a significant impact on Tennessee's 2019 season as far as what they did on offense. Okay, let's see. Anything else? Who from this class will start as freshmen? I think the most likely ones to start as freshmen for Tennessee are Keyshawn Lawrence, Harrison Bailey, and that's probably it. Yeah, as long as Brandon Kennedy can come back for his 6th year, of eligibility, come back for his 3rd year at Tennessee with that waiver, the medical waiver with the NCAA, those are the only two I really see that could start. It wouldn't surprise me to see Lawrence start. I think Thomas will play a role. I'll say Tyler Barron. That one's an interesting one to me too, because of Tennessee's needed pass rusher. Tyler Barron is one that I guess wouldn't surprise me to see start either, because you're losing Darrell Taylor. Like, Tennessee's had a lot of great options off the edge besides him. DeAndre Johnson's been okay at times, but you haven't seen a whole lot from your other pass rushers. So that's the one I would say too, because I don't know if Mormon Joseph will get big enough in time to really come off the edge and be ready to go. Maybe he does. I think Mormon Joseph has a high ceiling, so that's a possibility. Someone said Jalen Hyatt. I don't think Jalen Hyatt will start, but I think he'll play. And he could get a good, 15 catches or so this season as a true freshman, because he hits speed, man. The option of having him, he's not just a speed guy. He can run routes so well. His route tree is already pretty extensive especially for being a high school senior. He can jump really high. He's just a very athletic, very fast guy. Really like him a whole lot. Christos, you just got here. Well, you caught the end, buddy. I'm sorry you're catching the end. I'm about to log off here, but this will be archived as soon as I go off live here. You can go back and rewatch the entire thing, the entire hour. I didn't actually realize I've been on here for an hour at this point. But once I get done, once I log off here, it'll go archived, and you can watch from beginning to end the entire show if you missed any of it. So sorry about that, Christos, but you can go back and watch the whole thing from beginning to end. Slaughter starts opposite Tank. I don't think so. I think you'll see, if he's healthy, I think you'll see Javon Flowers start at safety, and maybe Jalen McCullough starts too, but we'll see. If Harrison Bailey starts, I think you'll have growing pains. I agree. I think he's good, but I think you will have growing pains. I agree. Last thing here, quick question from Chris Compton about hoops. Any word on Santiago Vescovi become eligible in January? Need a point guard bad. Yes, Tennessee needs a point guard bad, or they need someone to spell Turner, or there's something. Last I heard, I don't think he's gotten his SAT score back yet, but there's not really been any reason to believe that he won't be able to come in and enroll in January. I still don't know how much Santiago is going to play. To me, even if it's just 5-10 minutes a game, that's going to be good for Tennessee. That's going to be another ball handler out there, a guy he's got really good natural point guard skills. Santiago Vescovi he's going to be fun to watch out there as a floor general. Thank you, David, for listening to us, watching to the show. And yes, Gator Bowl coming soon. We'll have another reaction show to the Gator Bowl when that happens. And I'll try to remember what Tennessee's basketball schedule is. They played Cincinnati today. They have Jacksonville State next. And then they have one other big non-conference, Wisconsin. I probably won't do Wisconsin. I think I will be traveling for holiday stuff when Tennessee plays Wisconsin, so I don't know if I would do anything there. Obviously, I didn't do one after the Memphis game. I was also sick for the Memphis game, so that's one reason I didn't want to do it. And also, Tennessee lost, and I figured y'all would want to. Maybe y'all would have wanted me to do one after that loss. I don't know, but I'll do some stuff for basketball this year, especially in SEC play. We'll do some post-game reaction stuff, but definitely we'll do one on January 2nd for the Gator Bowl. But guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Please give this video a like. Share it around. If you missed the beginning of it, you can go back and watch it later. Thank you all so much for tuning into this. I may try to do these more regularly, just not post-game stuff, just kind of have live chats with you guys because it's fun, and I appreciate you guys tuning in and watching and asking questions and everything. So if you haven't subscribed to our channel, please do. Please give the video a like. We're on social media all over the place, on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, obviously here, Rocket Top Insider, on all of those. If you want to follow me, I am at Mr_Rutherford on Twitter. Thank all of you who are saying thank you. Vol Nation, Tia T, Joe Briggs, all of you who commented, Paul, Harold, Christos, I know you joined late, but still thank you. Thank you all of you who tuned in. Thank you, Joe, for subscribing. Appreciate that very much. Appreciate all of you. Hope you all have a great rest of your night. Hope you all can sleep well. And if I don't talk to you guys before then, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, and hope you guys have a wonderful New Year as well if I don't talk to you before then.